Commissioners meeting to order. Before we do the roll, let me just recognize we have former Commissioner Jeff Mergen with us tonight. Good to see you. And there's also, let's give him a round of applause. After doing this for 3 years, I really appreciate what you did, Jeff. So, welcome. Good. Thanks for being here. We also have township people here as well from Wakefield and other townships. So thank you for joining us tonight. So Sarah will do the roll.
Commissioner Clark? Here. Commissioner Persky?
Here.
Commissioner Notch?
Here.
Commissioner Bertram?
Here. Okay. And then we'll all stand and do the Pledge of Allegiance and a moment of silence. Moment of silence first. Pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Freedom.
So the first item of business would be the agenda. Are there any changes to the agenda, Mike?
Not from administration, no.
Okay. So a motion would be in order to approve the agenda.
So moved.
Second.
Commissioner Clark moves the agenda. Commissioner Notch seconds it. Any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. The agenda is approved. We're going to have a presentation of awards. There's a proclamation in honor of Jodi Teich, our highway engineer, is leaving. And we wanted to embarrass her one more time. So Mike, do you want to read the proclamation? And then after that, the board, I'll ask the entire board to join me. We'll take a picture with her and with some things that we have from the county.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I'm happy to read this resolution. Well, happy and sad, as it says. Whereas it is with great pride and sadness that we recognize Jodi Teich for her dedicated service as Stearns County engineer, during which she has exemplified leadership, innovation, and commitment to transportation and infrastructure. And whereas Jodi grew up on a dairy farm in southern Douglas County and earned a Bachelor of Civil Engineering degree from the University of Minnesota, laying a strong foundation for a career in county engineering and transportation planning. And whereas she began her professional journey as Assistant County Engineer at Pine County, serving for 4.5 years before advancing to Stearns County as the Assistant County Engineer, a role she held for 12 years, gaining extensive experience managing transportation projects. And whereas in 2012, Jodi was appointed Stearns County Engineer, overseeing a comprehensive transportation system that serves both urban and rural communities and has been instrumental in managing road construction, maintenance, and transportation planning for one of Minnesota's largest counties. And whereas her credentials and leadership have been widely recognized, including being named the 2024 Urban Engineer of the Year by the National Association of County Engineers. She served as the North Central Vice President for the same organization, and she received the William Konarski Transportation Advocate Award from the Minnesota Transportation Alliance. And whereas her dedication and experience have significantly contributed to the safety, mobility, and economic vitality of Stearns County, and her leadership has left a lasting positive impact on the community. And now, therefore, we, Stearns County Board of Commissioners, do hereby extend our deepest appreciation to Jodi for her exemplary service, commend her accomplishments, and wish her success and fulfillment in her new role with Otter Tail County.
We'll make that official first, so I'll move that we approve that resolution proclamation in honor of Jodi Teich. Is there a second?
I'll second that.
Okay, Commissioner Persky seconds it. Obviously, we can tear it up, Jodi, if you change your mind. We do have shredders, I asked Chris, and we do have a shredder here, so. But all those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed, same sign. We'll come up there and join you.
I'll give you this and take it back because it needs one more signature on it. And then you know the trim.
Dang it, you had to go make me all weepy. Uh-oh.
Turtle down.
Randy
Jodi also brought her husband Al, who thought he was just gonna slip in and out, but he's in the back row as well, so there he is. Thank you for joining. Jodi, thank you for everything. Keep in touch. Next order of business would be the consent agenda. There's 10 items on the consent agenda. Any member have anything that they want to pull from the consent agenda?
Mr. Chair, I'd like to take F5 off the agenda.
Okay. Mr. Persky wants F5 off the consent agenda. Anybody else? Seeing none, the motion would be in order to approve the consent agenda 1 through 9 then, 9 items.
I'll move 1 through 10 with the exception of number 5.
Okay, is there a second?
Second.
Commissioner Notch seconds it. Any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed, same sign. Okay, then let's talk about F5.
Okay. F5 is concerning about the eradication of the buckthorn at Quarry Park. Ben, I think we talked a little bit about that. So do you want to just take a seat here? And I guess I'm just a bit concerned, the price tag is $700,000 for the 73 acres. That's a huge amount of money, I think, for, the eradication of buckthorn on 73 acres, and that's not coming out of the park budget, which is a good thing because if it was coming out of the park budget, it wouldn't come out of the park budget, I think, by as far as taking that kind of a price tag on buckthorn eradication. But I'm just curious what we're going to actually be getting then for that cost. Yeah, we talked a little bit about this.
Yeah, Mr. Chair, Commissioners, thank you. So
Just introduce yourself. For
Ben Anderson, Parks Director,
Thank you.
Stearns County. Thank you for the question. We're a natural resource-based park system. Buckthorn, everybody knows what buckthorn is. It's an invasive plant that goes in and basically creates a monoculture in the understory of oak woodlands, fields. If you don't stay on top of them, pretty much anywhere it can grow. And again, it creates that area where there's no diversity in the understory. So it becomes a big problem in our natural areas because there are no more natural plants and it can push out native species and things like that as well. So part of the goal of removing this buckthorn is to increase the diversity within our park system for plants, wildlife, animals. So the funding source for this is actually through Great River Greening. They're a nonprofit organization out of the Twin Cities Metro. They apply for Lessard Sam's Outdoor Heritage Council funding to do projects. Quarry Park happens to land within the Anoka Sand Plain, which includes Sherburne, the eastern part of Stearns County up into Morrison County. They have $1.9 million to do projects such as buckthorn eradication, and they are asking if Stearns County would like to use $700,000 of that to do 70 to 73 acres of buckthorn treatment within Quarry Park, which is our most popular park within Stearns County. This is not a one and done. This contract, if approved by the county board, would start if it's signed tonight and would go through a 5-year period, June 30th of 2030. So there would be a minimum of 3 treatments, usually 4 treatments over that entire 70 some acres. It includes mechanical treatment. It includes hand removal around areas that are ecologically significant within the park because there are rock outcrops that do have things such as prickly pear cactus. Most people don't know that there is a native cactus in Minnesota, but we do have it within the park system. It thrives on those rock outcrops that are also being overtaken by buckthorn. We also have a tuberculin rain orchid that is a wetland margin specialist that grows within the park, but again, gets choked out by this nasty plant. So all of this funding, again, is coming through that Lessard Sam's Outdoor Heritage Council, which is funded through the Outdoor Heritage Fund, which if you recall back in 2008, the Minnesota voters passed a 3/8 cents tax on ourselves to go towards projects such as this. And this gets about 1/3 of that funding every year. So yes, it's an expensive price tag, but it's not a one and done. All of this work is going to occur multiple times over the next 5-ish years.
Commissioner Notch?
Yeah, Mr. Chair. So then, is there a lot of buckthorn out there?
600 acres of it. Yep, so we started, if you recall, about 3 years ago, we actually entered into an initial agreement with Great River Greening to do 90 acres in part of the SNA and in part of the northern 220 acres as well. And that has been going well. We have one more year next year to go with that one on that initial treatment.
Oh, so this is a continuation?
It's a continuation to get more acres. So we'll go from 90 up to about 160 with this as a park that's been treated.
And our match is only 10,000?
Mr. Chair.
Well, the match is 10,000, but the grant, I always have to remind everybody, is still tax dollars. So it may not be our money, but it's still tax dollars. And of course, my mind's swirling. I'm sure this is happening throughout the state. So these grants are being spent millions.
It's kind of nice that we're getting
Millions.
some.
Right.
Correct.
Yep.
At least we're getting it.
Yep.
I get the Glenwood paper in my real job, and they really have a big buckthorn brigade that they volunteers and stuff. And have we ever pursued some of that?
So we do ask for volunteers at some of our parks where it's not as big of an issue. So like Kramer Lake Wildwood, in the next couple of weeks, you'll see a posting coming out asking for volunteers to come out and help Carlson's and some of the park staff with eradication in there. Quite frankly, the buckthorn in Quarry Park is so thick and there's so much of it that we need to do these larger scale treatments in order to try and get ahead of it.
And I think the PECs at the Rockville Park have really done a lot on their own as well, right?
Yep.
So thank people that are doing that. Commissioner Clark?
Yeah, kind of those two pieces. One is this is money that's going to go to a different place, and volunteers alone aren't enough, but the volunteers are really important. And so kind of piggybacking off what you said, Commissioner Notch, it's kind of nice if we can get some of it back to make a difference. And then, second, I was thinking about, I don't know about for anybody else that's here or watching, but we've got in our tiny little condo townhouse a space of like 10 by 10 that once upon a time had buckthorn. They removed the buckthorn, and the buckthorn has always tried to come back, even though it has been totally redone. So without that kind of treatment, I could see, I just go out, once a week and pull buckthorn, but that's a 10 by 10 foot thing, so the price tag, when I saw that too, I was concerned, but I know how many acres it is, I know how thick it is, and I'm really glad that it's the kind of thing that honestly Minnesota taxpayers just re-upped doing this.
Mr. Chair, also just with partnering with Great River Greening, so they handle all the bidding process for us. They handle all the contracting with the contractor, but we get the say over, what treatments happen where within the park system. So we maintain that control over what's happening within the park, but we get the benefit of not having to go through the bidding process, not having to hold those contracts ourselves and holding those contractors accountable, but still maintaining that on-site management of those actions.
I'll go ahead and make a motion to approve.
Mr. Chair? We don't talk about it, I'm sorry. The county runs a funny meeting, I'm still trying to figure this out, but we don't have interaction during these items, but you certainly can share it with us after the meeting. Of course, it's gonna be decided on, but
Go
I'd
ahead.
like to hear what you'd say.
Yep, I'll go ahead and move approval.
Okay.
Since I pulled it, I'll go ahead and I'll second that, and then I certainly know that you'll do a quality job as far as looking at, as the work that they're performing, making sure that it's, quality work, and that, we get, I don't know what to say what we paid for, but at least we're gonna have a quality job done out there, so, thank you.
Okay, any further discussion? Not, motion's been made and seconded to approve it. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion passes. And I do want to hear what you want to say at some point, but we can't do it right now. The next order of business is the Veteran Services Director, Corey Baskey, is going to give the annual report. Welcome, Corey. There are seats in here, by the way. I see a couple of seats, 3. If there's a seat by you, raise your hand. If you want to come in and sit, there's seats in here. So there's about 5 seats. So come on in. I said Wakefield Township before, Collegeville Township's here. If I'm missing somebody, say it, but Zion, yep, Zion's here. So thanks for the township people coming too. Corey, welcome.
Chair Bertram, commissioners, good to see you all again. It's been a couple of years since I've presented my annual report, so thanks for allowing me this time. I would, before I get going, just bring everyone's attention. I don't have a visual presentation, but I do have a packet with a report. If people want to go online and pull that, they can follow along with some of my comments. First, I just want to start out by saying, veteran benefits are complex. They're constantly evolving and often life-changing for the veterans that we assist and their family members. Our office exists to help Stearns County veterans and their families navigate that veterans benefits system. Stearns County ranks as the 7th largest vet county by veteran population in Minnesota. Our estimated veteran population in 2024 was 9,261. Based on VA veteran population estimates. Due to our veteran population size, our geographic location, and the presence of the VA Medical Center, our office is considered a high-volume office. Given the volume, I would characterize our office structure as a high-efficiency model. And by that, I mean we serve a large population with a lean team, short wait times, and strong outcomes, all while maintaining quality and responsiveness. We offer a combination of walk-ins and appointments to provide same-day or next-day availability for immediate needs and longer appointments for more complex and time-intensive issues. While most clients prefer in-person meetings, we also have the ability to accommodate remote appointments. In 2024, we logged 11,134 recorded interactions. 3,408 of those interactions were unique clients, meaning individuals separate, that we interact with, not duplicate interactions. And for clarity, not every interaction that we track is recorded. We make it a point to just record interactions where there's something of substance communicated in the veteran's record. In 2024, our office submitted over 2,200 different submittals on behalf of Stearns County veterans and their families. This included VA compensation, pension claims, burial claims, survivors benefits, records requests, and state grants. Please see my attached report for a more detailed breakdown of our claim submittals. These efforts resulted in more than $2.4 million in retroactive awards from the Veterans Benefits Administration. We also led the state in SSAP awards, or State Soldiers Assistance Program grants, securing over $290,000 for veterans in need in Stearns County. So far in 2025, we have secured $1.7 million in retroactive payments and are currently ranked number 3 in Minnesota for SSAP awards of all counties. For your awareness, retroactive payments, that's something new that I'm presenting or mentioning in my verbal report. I did include some of it in my written report, but those retroactive payments we capture manually based on the VSOs going and reviewing the outcomes of claims decisions. So that directly reflects the work that our office is providing assistance with in regards to VA benefits claims. But because it's a manual process, we miss some of those, and so that number is probably a low end estimate of what we are assisting with. Although we do have a high volume of interactions and claim submittals, we do strive to provide the best quality of claims assistance and advice. We do not have the capacity to provide comprehensive case management for all clients, but staff are expected to constantly assess and triage situations needing more urgent attention or a more detailed review. This approach is not always perfect, but it is empowering of staff and allows our office to be more responsive when it is needed and we are able. I would now also bring people's attention back to the report, the written report, and specifically the section about expected changes and their impacts over time. The world of veterans benefits is constantly changing. There are several movements in place right now that I think are relevant to how our office provides assistance to veterans. Some of those we have no control over. For example, the Veterans demographics are changing. Approximately 49% of our veteran population is over the age of 65. And we've seen a shift in the last couple years from Vietnam veterans being the largest demographic of veterans to now Gulf War I and Gulf War II. So basically 1990 to the present time is now the largest demographic of veterans. Another issue that we have that has been ongoing basically since the start of COVID is we're seeing an increase in what I consider predatory unaccredited claims assistance, and there's some movements at a national, and there were some a year ago at the state level to address VA accreditation reform and trying to address this issue. I don't want to wade too far into the politics of those issues, but I just thought it would be good for the board to be a little bit aware of what is going on. We do have veterans in Stearns County where we have interacted with, and it's a politically charged issue. I'll consider them victims of these interactions. But just to give you some example of what's going on, these businesses are intentionally structured to avoid detection by the VA and veteran advocates. They are intentionally unaccredited. The VA regulation requires someone providing assistance in preparation or developing a claim or submitting a claim to be accredited with the VA, but they have no enforcement mechanism to do so. So these businesses are sort of preying on frustrations with a very burdened bureaucratic system. And they're making promises about the expediency of claims decisions or the outcomes of claims decisions, which they have no power or influence to actually achieve, but they're preying on that concern and frustration and getting veterans to sign on and for this assistance. So the issue really comes down to the fact that it's hard to detect when these organizations are actually assisting a veteran, and they're charging ridiculous amounts of money. You know, I think I talked to a veteran actually today who I've been working with for a few months, and he was charged in the realm of $19,000, you know, for assistance. That's the second time. The first time they charged him was for $6,000. So it's not a small amount of money for an individual. And it's not an insignificant issue, because I think what some people, once they've signed on to this and they've gotten assistance, they feel kind of ashamed of getting caught in this, and they don't always come forth. Some people are happy, you know, with the outcomes that they get. So it's a mixed bag. There's a lot of politically charged sentiment around the issue, and it's largely centered around, frankly, just the inefficiency of the existing claims process, basically. And then transitions, a separate issue then, transitions to digital first service delivery model. We're seeing this everywhere, but definitely the VA benefits around providing documents electronically, submittal processes electronically. I think the goal is efficiency, which is good, but there are a lot of elderly veterans that struggle to access it. And the way that the VA is structuring their security measures is making it hard for VSOs to directly assist the veterans in filing that when they're doing it through those systems. And then last, this has been something that's sort of developing and is coming to what I hope is coming to a crescendo, but just increasing complexity in the VA claims process, combined with changes in VA systems, their procedures, and constant change with staffing at the VA, at the Veterans Benefits Administration. We're seeing an increase in volume of claims due to the PACT Act, but we're seeing some of the poorest quality and development and decisions on claims, lots of factual and procedural errors in the development of those claims. And because of that, the claims, you know, tend to drag on. There's subsequent, you know, follow-up claims on those initial denials, and it's resulting in very complex and drawn-out claims, which makes it harder for the VSO to sit down and try to get to the root of what is going on with this claim and what is that next step the veteran needs to take. These issues, okay, sorry. My final topic for tonight is something related to my budget request, specifically related to the Western Stearns County office, or an office in Western Stearns County. My understanding is that that is still in the budget request for next year, but I thought I would just provide some updated data on that. I was looking at our zip code data based on interactions from 2019 and comparing it to 2024 numbers. And there was a 7.4% reduction overall from Western Stearns County interactions from 2019 to 2024. And specifically in Sauk Center, we saw over 50% drop in interactions from veterans from Sauk Center. So there could be a myriad of contributing factors to that, but why I picked 2019 was that was the last year that we had an office full-time in Sauk Center. So there's definitely a need for us to get back out into these communities. So I would strongly request the board supports that. That's already in motion, but that there's definitely a need for us to be engaged out in Western Stearns County. If we get the office in Melrose, my goal is also to look at Belgrade and Bruton to see if we can get a once a month outreach out into one of those locations. That is all that I have for you tonight. Thank you for your continued support to our veterans and their families, and I'm happy to answer any questions.
I just want to say thank you, Director Vasky, for what you do. I've never heard one complaint from the Veteran Services offices, so kudos to you. And with 5 people, you're doing an awful lot of stuff. And continue those remote sessions as you do, and I was going to suggest that, don't forget, Painesville and Belgrade, Bruton certainly are in the western part of Stearns County as well. So doing those monthly visits at the Legions or wherever are certainly very, very helpful. So
It has been, I know, I didn't get the exact numbers, but I know we were in Painesville today and he was swamped from beginning to end. So I think probably over 10 veterans or in that realm of veteran scene, in that setting is a good day for them.
thank you. Commissioner Clark?
Yeah, I do. Thank you. Please thank your staff. The ongoing work you do is important. It's important for many reasons. I had a question, and then I guess a couple things to throw up that I'll follow up with you on. Would you mind just reminding us percentage-wise about how many are either Guard or reservists? Because that's one of the things that's changed over time too, right?
I don't have a number for you, unfortunately, Commissioner. There are a lot of Guard and Reserve service members, both currently as well as former, service members in this area. There was a heavy Reserve and Guard presence in Sauk Center and Painesville and in St. Cloud. I may be missing one, that I've forgotten about, but very, very significant presence over the years.
Yeah, very much appreciate that. And then I was wondering too about the outreach, because some of those areas it helps, and because we've got 9 counties around us and people can come to wherever they want to go. We know that you do at least some initial work that might be from somebody from another county and then try to help connect them. And for you and your other folks that are leading the offices in other counties, that can get complicated sometimes. You could just talk a little bit about that.
About how we interact with other counties.
Or how you help them get back to the other counties sometimes, because I know you do great work, and sometimes that means people from other counties want to keep utilizing you.
That is true, and we tend to try to walk a line, although we've been a little more firm in our position in recent years, just because of a high volume of interaction. So if a person calls from another county, we are telling them, to go to that respective county to interact with that county veteran service officer. If they walk into our office, if it's related to a claim, we're going to do what's called an intent to file to hold the effective date of the claim. And then that way the veteran isn't, necessarily punished for interacting with us and not being able to file the claim that day. It holds the date of claim, but then we're encouraging them to follow up. Now we do, if we have an established rapport with somebody who lived in Stearns County and then they moved across the river, and we're going to continue to assist them. We don't want to leave them feeling high and dry. So we do provide some assistance. We also try to maintain a good working relationship with the counties around us. If someone doesn't like me or doesn't like working with the other service officer, that we have some reciprocity in being able to assist across county lines. So it's not a hard line, but I do see my role, or our office. We are funded through the county levy. So my goal, we are staffed to serve the veterans of Stearns County, and that's gotta be my first focus.
And just
Commissioner Clark?
thank you for helping, just so that people understand with that, and it's hard sometimes, like you said, you got a river and we got a whole bunch of other counties around us, and it's just really critically important work, and frankly, the feds should be helping pay for this as well as the state, but the good thing is our residents, our veterans, their families, our military service members, they're getting the benefit, and that's really important, so thank you again.
Thank you.
Commissioner Notch?
Yeah, thanks, Mr. Chair. Corey has, in the past, the employment part has been difficult in your office. Has it been better?
We are currently in the process of hiring for the half-time VSO position. But because of that, like, we are in a good place. We are in a better place, than we were a few years ago. And part of how we are able to, I think part of the issue of why we haven't been able to get out into Western Stearns was just turnover. There was a series of retirements that we knew were coming, and then hiring people to backfill those positions, and then additional retirements or people leaving. And it takes, I could talk a lot, so I only have so much time, but I would say that it takes, there's no formal training for a CVSO. You get some technical training from the state, but a lot of it is based on experience. It takes us at least 6 months to get a VSO trained up to the point where I'm comfortable with them, interacting with and doing many things on their own. So even, for the Melrose office, there'll be a process, for us to be ready to staff that. But we're going to, if we get approval and that gets put in place, even if we have to rotate existing VSOs through there, we're going to have that office staff.
Commissioner Persky?
Well, I might as well join
Jump in.
in, because Corey, we very much appreciate your efforts, and there too, I've only heard, positive things, coming from your office. And then also, I must say, we're very fortunate to have the VA here in St. Cloud. And that provides a great service to many of the veterans in Stearns County and the whole area. And from what I hear, the service that they provide is fantastic from so many of the veterans I've heard that really got the service that they want and they need. So, yeah.
Anything else? Thank you again for everything. All we do is simply accept the report. There's no action on that. So thank you, Corey, for everything you do. The next item is the emergency management. Aaron Hughes, our emergency services manager, and her 2026 emergency operations plan that we will have to approve. So, welcome. I think people would be amazed to see what you are prepared for. Everything from a train derailment with hazardous material to storm damage, you name it. How you work with the county and with the fire departments, police, law enforcement, it's amazing. So welcome and thank you for what you do.
Thank you. Mr. Chair, Commissioners, Aaron Hughes, I'm the Emergency Manager for Stearns County.
Alex Brixius, Emergency Management Specialist.
So we are here today to talk a little bit about the Emergency Operations Plan. I'm going to let Alex talk the majority of the time because this is the work that he's ingrained with day in and day out. But I wanted to give a little bit of history about the plan. We do have what we call an all-hazard plan, which means that it's unique, that we can use it in any type of response. Like you've indicated, a train derailment or a severe weather event, whatever type of emergency might take place, we're able to pull pieces out of that emergency plan and work with the community, our public safety partners, the private sector, et cetera, to be able to respond to those emergencies. We have both state and federal regulations that have to be accounted for in those plans. So Alex is going to talk a little bit about that tonight. And how we integrate that into our annual update as we work with well over 250 people to make sure this plan is as comprehensive as it could possibly be.
Yeah, so today we're going to talk about our emergency operations plan and give you an update as far as how things are going this year. And so we'll jump right into that. We start off with our base plan, which is an all-hazards base plan. That is kind of an overview and general guidance, helps to guide us through any kind of hazardous situation as was laid out. That leads us into 23 functional annexes ranging anywhere from animals to emergency communications, all kinds of different things. And all those plans range anywhere from about 12 to 25, 30 pages of different documentation that helps us to work through those emergency situations when they arise. And then our continuity of operations plans, we have about 20 of those. So we have plans for almost every department in the county as well as the city of St. Cloud, and are working on plans for the departments of the city of Wake Park as well, as we contract with both of those cities to provide them emergency management services also. A little bit about the functional annexes, just some highlights that we had from this year. We worked with the Sheriff's Office, St. Cloud Fire, Mayo Ambulance, as well as the 2 police departments to update their training requirements, which are attached in the basic plan to make sure that we keep accurate and up-to-date information on what they're required to do to keep their licensure. We also worked with the Sheriff's Office, the police departments to update curfew language for the evacuation and traffic control annex. And there were other highlights that I included in the board packet that was sent to you all. Continuity of operations. We spent time this year writing a continuity plan for our procurement department, who had previously been covered under the administration continuity plan. As a part of our review process, I met with St. Cloud Public Services. They had 6 different departments that we were able to combine into one continuity plan, just to kind of streamline their process and cut down on reviews that we're required to do every year. We updated countless personnel directories to ensure we can efficiently notify the right people. As you all know, there's constant change, and we try to make sure that we keep those personnel directories up to date throughout the year, but it never ceases to amaze me that we always have 1 or 2 that we have to update. All right, so our review schedule. So all of our plans, from the base plan all the way through those continuity plans, are reviewed every 3rd year in person in a full review process where I meet with whoever is signing those plans and any other affected personnel. On the off years, we do what's called a read-through review. So I'll send an email to those folks who sign off on the plan, ask them to review it and provide any feedback to me. And then I can update the plan or work with them to get it updated. So there's all different levels from federal to local as far as guidance for what we use. Obviously, we work emergency management under FEMA. Their guidance is the Comprehensive Preparedness Guide 101, kind of a general rule as to what we want to follow when we're writing these plans. At the state level, SAHA Title III, part of EPCRA, which is, look here, Emergency Planning and Community Right to Know Act, which was enacted in 1986, deals specifically with hazardous chemicals and enhancing community safety and awareness. And then Minnesota Chapter 12, which is the state statute governing emergency management. So part of the state requirement is that we do an annual review and have our plans looked at by different folks every year. It's a 4-year cycle. And so they use the MinWalk, which is a crosswalk between our plans. So we look at our plans and we review them next to the criteria that they've selected. There's upwards of 60 unique requirements in that MinWalk that we use to make sure that all of those things that the state requires are included in our plans. And then we meet with the different, whether it's a regional review year, a peer review year, an HSEM or Homeland Security Emergency Management review year, or the county board, which is why we're here. Part of the reason we're here today sharing this presentation with you is this is the year that you all get to sign off on and review our plan.
It had nothing to do with you wanted to see us.
Well, that too.
Okay.
And it was close to home, so
I wanted
thank
to
you,
point
Pickle
that out.
Cold
Yeah,
Spring.
there you
So this is just a little bit of a breakdown, one of the requirements that is part of that NWAC. As you can see, we have to show emergency responsibilities assigned to each department, agency, and organization with a primary and/or support role. And we lay out where that happens on the left there, or that side, depending on how you're looking at it. And then on the other side is our layout. That's a snippet from one of the plans, lays out the different annexes in the far left column, the department or agency responsible and their role, whether it's primary or support, in the far right column. That concludes my presentation. If you have any questions, feel free to ask.
So tonight, we are here with the request or ask for approval of the plan that has been reviewed in 2025 that would go into effect January 1st of 2026.
And the plan's important, number one, to have a plan, and two, we have to do that to meet the standards. But Aaron and I were talking for the city of St. Cloud and for Way Park, which I did not know until tonight. They do reimburse us for their part of the plan, which is about 50% of the overall plan. So they do contribute towards that plan. What do other like local communities, they rely on this plan?
I would say there's a combination. Some of the smallest cities do, and it's really threshold based. If something were to happen in the community, it would come to asking for county assistance much quicker than some of the larger cities that have more staff and infrastructure. By law, Chapter 12, any incorporated city is required to have an emergency manager. So most of the cities throughout the county do have an identified emergency manager.
Perfect. Any questions?
Mr. Chair,
Commissioner Persky?
not a question, but just a comment. Aaron, you're aware of what happened in 2012 in Sartell when we had the explosion and the fire up in the mill up there. If it wasn't for an emergency management plan, things wouldn't happen the way they did. But there were almost 100 agencies and service providers that came to the aid of Sartell and that horrific fire that it burned for a week inside that building. And it just shows that when you're prepared, things work a lot better than Captain Chaos when you're not prepared. And my appreciation goes out to having that plan in place. Dan, well at the sheriff's department, he's not here, but how well you folks work with the police departments from other communities and those people that are here that are volunteer fire people. That if your neighbor's place is on fire, you're gonna go out there and help them if they need the help. So it's good that we got a plan together, and it's good that when it comes to an emergency that we can all work together and share our resources. Yeah.
And just like Veteran Services, they have 5 staff. What do you have for staff? 5 staff. And again, what you do and what you are preparing communities for is amazing. So thank you. Commissioner Clark.
Yeah, I was thinking of Commissioner Persky of 2 other examples, and because it relates really locally, it was the very tragic shooting that happened, the Corey shooting, and then our county having the first incidence of A1N1 flu, and looking at the school district, the county, the cities, the state partnering in those ways. As hard as all those things were, the difference that was made because of preparation. And then I know that we need to keep moving, but maybe you could talk a little bit about the cross-departmental work, because I know obviously you do a lot of work with public health too, as well as others. If you could just speak to that.
Sure. On top of my duties in emergency management, I also am the public health emergency preparedness coordinator for Stearns County. So I do a lot of work with our public health folks, as well as regionally with other public health departments, fulfilling the duties of the public health emergency preparedness grant, as well as the response sustainability grant. So making sure that not only our emergency management, but also as a public health entity, that we're able to respond to any public health preparedness needs as well, and keep our staff up to date on all trainings and ready if they need to respond.
Mr. Chair, we're just very lucky to have you doing both those roles as well as helping leverage other staff. So, thank you.
Okay, Commissioner Notch?
I'll move approval of the 2026 emergency plan.
Second.
Plan's been moved by Commissioner Notch, seconded by Commissioner Clark. Seeing no further discussion, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. The plan is approved. Thank you again very much. Next item of business is Mike Williams, the county highway engineer. Recruitment?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Quick refer to the schedule that I just gave you. As you know, and as we thank Jodi for her work, she will be leaving us very soon, this Friday. We started the process of advertising for the position as quickly as we could. About a month ago, it closed last week. You have seen all the candidate applicants, and so on this schedule, we are basically at number 4 there, where the board can approve the process as we move ahead here. And as you also know, we have interview day scheduled for October 24th. And we're planning to do that with 2 panels, which is some staff members, of course, the county board, and we have the District 3 state aid engineer has agreed to join us as well. So we have that scheduled. Soon after that, then the choice, will become based on whatever we decide. If the board wants to do second interviews, we might be scheduling that if we're ready to make a choice. But in either case, we in leadership positions, we have always sent candidates, final candidate or candidates sometimes to McAllister for leadership assessment. Some of you have been involved in processes that includes that. It's a very beneficial process to the selection, and eventually it is a beneficial process to the person that gets selected. We already have a couple dates set aside soon after the 24th with McAllister, so we can keep this moving quickly. And then we have, of course, a number of things that would happen in November, background checks, reference checks, those kinds of things. We get the report back from McAllister. And kind of depending on how quickly all that moves and how quickly we're ready to make a decision, I think the soonest we could have the board make a selection would be November 18th. Likely, though, we might get into the first meeting in December. Before your next meeting, which is before we conduct the interviews, we'll pull together a packet for the board that has all the information, has the proposed questions, and then on that meeting on the 21st, if the board wants to tweak the process or have comments on the questions, we can certainly do that. That's in brief what we see ahead of us. I think we've moved quickly, and we can have someone in place. If we make a decision, the first part of November, hopefully we can have someone in place in January.
And just for the public's purposes, tonight on our consent agenda, we did appoint Mike Decker, the assistant county highway engineer, as the interim engineer during this process. So we do need an engineer signing documents and things like that. Jodi did an outstanding job with Zion Township being here. The first time I met with Jodi after I got elected was at their township meeting, which happens to be at their clerk's kitchen table. And so she's out in the middle of Zion Township, meeting with me with them to help them get a culvert that they needed, a bridge on a township road. She's really worked well, and the engineer will work well, the new engineer, with the townships, because they're not capable of being able to access those fundings for those projects. And so the engineer really needs to have an understanding of the entire county. We're 65 by 65 miles, huge county, a lot of roads. What is it, 1,000 miles, I believe, of county roads, plus then all the township roads. So it's certainly very important. So anybody have questions on that process that Mike laid out for us? If not, a motion to approve the first round in-person interviews for 6 applicants for the highway engineer to be held on Friday, October 24th would be in order.
So moved.
Okay, Commissioner Persky moves that.
Second.
Commissioner Clark seconds it. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed, same sign. That's approved. Next item is the appointment to the Region 7W Economic Development District Governing Committee.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Yes, as you all know, Benton, Sherburne, and Stearns County have agreed to begin an economic development district. So we're ready to begin assembling the governing body for that organization. Again, each county can appoint 2 people, and then that board is then going to appoint someone from the business community. The counties can appoint elected officials, you could appoint county board members, you can appoint other elected officials, or you can appoint someone else that you think is appropriate, if, economic development staff or something like that. The Initiative Foundation, who is acting as a sponsor for this group, is hoping that they can begin to assemble a board in November, and so they're hoping that we would make an appointment by the end of October. So we have this meeting, next meeting, and I would suggest we would be okay even if we did it on November 4th. So if you want to do some kind of a process or decide tonight, or whatever it is, however the board wants to handle it, I think we have the time to do that.
Members have a suggestion. My only concern is this is a joint powers board with fiduciary financial implications. So I think, just like the airport, we want to make sure that we have our thumb on this. So personally, I'd like to see commissioners on it, at least to start. And then we do have a business appointment that is part of it as well, the way it looks to me. I think any way we cut this, Stearns is going to be the primary financial obligee, more than likely. So I think that business rep should come from Stearns County, but that's something we'll have to, I don't know if we want to put out for people to apply for that or whatever the board thinks. But my preference would be that there be board members on the joint powers board, and for at least to start with. That's my 2 cents. Commissioner Clark.
Thank you. I understand it is one of the counties was going to have their administrator, is that correct? I didn't see where. I mean, I'm with you, at least one commissioner, but I'd personally be okay with, I don't even know if Mike would want to do it, but if he did, or otherwise 2 commissioners sounds fine.
I think Sherburne County, Mr. Chair, Sherburne County is making their appointments as we speak, I think, too. I think on their agenda was to have 2 of their county commissioners appointed. They are the 2 county commissioners that serve on their EDA, is who they have recommended. Benton County, I don't think has taken action. They were talking about a commissioner and then their economic development professional.
My opinion would be that
Commissioner
would have 1 commissioner on there for sure. And then, that allows them also, when there are issues, when we do issues by commissioners, they can give us updates about things like that. And then also on the broader sense, I want to make sure too that, we're looking at all opportunities, with this EDA that, we talked about the needs that townships have, and some of these small communities might not have the resources to know that there's funding available for something that might take place in their area, so that we can be advocating for them, not just the bigger cities, so that we have opportunity throughout the county. So, and throughout the area. When something happens in Benton County and Sherburne County, as well as here, it helps the whole area oftentimes moving jobs into the area. So,
as you all know, I voted against joining this for 2 reasons. One, it's another joint powers board. It's another layer of additional revenue that folks are going to want. And my concern is that we help the cities that are the smaller cities that don't have the kinds of staffs to deal and apply for these things, which was kind of the whole point of this. So I'm certainly willing to try to make this work, and but that's always going to be my sensitivity. It's more tax money, more programs, it's certainly concerns, but again, if we've got time, do you want to think about it, or
Let's do that. Let's think about it.
Commissioner Notch, we've all kind of said what we felt about it.
I guess,
Well,
is there anybody that has a strong,
do we need to make a decision before we bring the new person on board?
That's the other question I
Yeah.
had, honestly.
well, it's by the end of October, right?
What do you think?
They've requested by the end of October. You know, I think we want a little more time, we can get that more time.
But I think at least just for our purposes, maybe put this on the 21st agenda, and then we can have a little bit of time to think more about it and interact with it.
Mr. Chair,
Commissioner
maybe one of the
Clark?
things too to consider then is, you know, if we do two, we could have somebody that's more on the eastern side and one that's more in the central or western, because it is important for all of it. And you know, even with St. Cloud, comparatively speaking, for around the country, it's not exactly the world's biggest community, but I think we all share the desire that we get some opportunities in places that might otherwise not have the capacity to go for it. And to me, that was part of the reason for doing this.
Because we're a board of four, we're all serving on an awful lot of committees.
Yes.
And so none of us, for a part-time job, none of us need more responsibility. But it is an important, if we're going to start it, it's important that we keep our thumb on it. Commissioner Notch?
Yeah, Mr. Chair, and I was gonna make that kind of the same suggestion with Commissioner Clark, to have a western one, and if you aren't, you know, interested, I guess I would be interested in one of them. And we can decide that in October to end the month.
Marlene's here tonight. She might want me to be on another committee, so I'm not home as much, but I'd be more than happy to defer to, as long as you keep my concerns in mind. I'm all in favor. Commissioner Clark?
Yeah, I was gonna say, I don't know if this helps while people are thinking about in between. I will say that you've heard me talk about it, I've agreed to do some more things that relate to some of the federal changes and the state cuts. So I think this is really important. I'd be interested at some point, but right now I just don't feel in good conscience I can say, yes, please.
And I do, to reaffirm my position, I do think there should be two commissioners on it to start. And then if we, 6 months, a year from now, we can defer to a staff person, but to start with, I feel strongly there should be two commissioners on it. So why don't we think about it, everybody we've heard, and then we'll put it on the agenda for the 21st. Next item is the approval contribution of Avivo Housing Complex. Mike?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Yes, we've talked about this a couple of times, and I think we're to the point where we can consider action anyway. As you know, the Statewide Affordable Housing Aid is a new aid that comes from the state. One of the primary focuses of those funds is homelessness, preventing homelessness. And we have Avivo that is ready to break ground on a 48-bed facility that provides support to people experiencing homelessness. They're in their final fundraising phase. They have enough to construct a building. What they're asking for is there's a funding gap, a capital funding gap that would, if funded, they would be able to use some construction methods and HVAC things that would reduce their operating costs. And I've always been interested in that, as the administrator here, because I don't want to see us have to contribute to their annual costs. And so I think if we could use these state funds that are really for this purpose and help them fund that gap, perhaps we help their operating budget. As you may or may not know, their operating budget, they have a facility down in Hennepin County, and part of their operating budget there is supported by the county. The Sherburne County is considering a similar contribution. If you did it by capital, we would be in at the $165,000. Sherburne would be at $100,000. They're considering that tonight. And Benton has considered it before. I'm hopeful that they might reconsider with a different funding, but I don't even know for sure that they're going to do that. And then you see, I didn't ask anybody from Avivo to be here. I'm sure they would have. You've heard from them before, but then they do have a description of the project and how it would be helpful if they can fund that gap included in the packet.
And I think it is important, based on that formula that you laid out, the $165,000 from us, $100,000 from Sherburne. I think it's important that Benton does pony up, and we may need to talk to them, because they certainly will benefit as much as we will with that Sauk Rapids, that near St. Cloud and the St. Cloud part of Benton County. And then the city of St. Cloud also has contributed 1.19 million. That's
Thank
my
you for that.
understanding.
Yes, I
Yeah.
forgot to mention that.
Which is, again, truly partnerships and services that are needed are important. And everybody's got to kind of pony up.
I can tell you that Sherburne was considering less than $100,000 until we proposed the per capita, but I think they're gonna approve it tonight.
Or we maybe should have a conversation with Benton to say that we'd all be really disappointed. And we'll be at their next meeting if they don't pony up some kind of money. So at this point, the motion would be to approve the contribution of $165,000.
So,
Commissioner Clark moves that.
I'm going to second and just comment, this is
Commissioner Persky?
another one of our regional issues, just like human trafficking, drug task force, and homelessness and affordable housing doesn't know the boundaries of the river and the jurisdictions. And so we very much need the cooperation with Benton County. So, yeah, I'm looking forward for them taking part.
And right around, as we all know, 36% of our budget is health and human services. We're mandated to do that. Programs like this hopefully will take some of that pressure off of those programs. It's too bad that this issue exists, but it does. And somehow we're gonna be mandated to take care of this one way or another. And hopefully this is a better way than straight up programs.
Mr. Chair, just really
Commissioner Clark.
quickly, Commissioner Persky and I were at, we talked about in the previous meeting, at a meeting that had commissioners from the other two counties in the nearby cities, as well as the faith community. The faith community is really worried because they've tried to ending up to do more. They're worried about this winter, and they too think this is going to help with it. It doesn't mean that they won't continue to have an important role and part along with the other shelters.
Just one final comment, Mr. Chair, I didn't mention all this, this is over a $9 million project, so, and their gap is about half a $500,000, somewhere like 600,000.
Seeing no further discussion, motion's been made and seconded to approve the contribution. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion passes. Mike's gonna give the near final report of broadband. After how many years, Mike?
Oh, golly. I don't have a mouse. Okay. I don't like mice anyway. So yes, thank you, Mr. Chair. I do want to just give, hopefully I can be brief, but we are winding this project down. And you're going to see that we've used those federal ARP dollars that were allocated to this project in a successful fashion, I think. And you're going to see that we have only 2 more grants left. Those are looking good. So I thought it was time to give you somewhat of a final report. So if
You want to just, I think everybody should understand broadband, but just give a 30-second.
Yep.
Exactly what broadband is.
This is where we were in the beginning of the program. So everything in white there, this was a map provided mostly by the state, but everything that isn't colored there was what the state considered either underserved or unserved. So the people that were living in these areas had broadband that was slow, painfully slow or non-existent. And we all, I think we all know how important strong broadband and Wi-Fi signals are in our lives today for everything from personal stuff to business to health. And so this is what we looked like back in 2017. So we had all that area that really didn't have service. Somewhere over 7,000 premises that didn't have service. And so way back in 2017, we started a process. We talked to the internet service providers just to find out if they were planning any build outs. They were very cooperative. We started a broadband ad hoc committee. They focused much on really on the far western part of the county because that's where we saw the greatest need. And then we received a grant, a Blandon grant, to really conduct a pretty in-depth study about broadband in Stearns County. And I just highlighted a couple of things out of that study and said, well, capital costs are high, and we found that out for sure. And high costs, the highest cost per premises, of course, are in the rural areas. And then the report went on to say, in addition, often there isn't the political will or appetite to put enough resources into a project to make it successful. And this county board, when it received those ARP dollars, did make a bold decision to make a difference in Stearns County with broadband. And so once the board allocated half of its ARP dollars, we also talked about how we would do a program, and the board was clear, we don't want to do this willy-nilly. We don't want to do it just where the providers want to provide service. We're not going to let providers cherry pick. We're going to show them big areas and tell them we want you to give us a proposal to cover this whole area. And they all said, well, it's going to cost a lot. And we said, yeah, we know, but we want to know what it's going to take. So it was a bold step. We issued an RFP for the far western part of the county to begin with. And our big communication was our first project, not in the quite far western portion, and I'll show you that in a minute. But we ended up with partners, of course, Office of Broadband Development, that's the State Department. We had federal money. And the other thing that we did when we started this was we talked to the townships, because townships all had ARP dollars as well. And 28 townships said, we're in. We know it's important, and we'll give you up to half of our ARP dollars. We just did a formula, and so, well, that was like $1.2 million or so, and that's real dollars. Most importantly there was that we could then put on the grant applications that we had local support. So we had county financial support and we had township support. And then, of course, we had partners with Arvin was our first, Albany Mutual up in the Northwest, Midco has a small project, and then Vibrant, who is Meeker Co-op, mostly in the southern part, and you'll see that here too. So now, this is what we look like today. We've served over 5,000 premises, so everything that's colored there, again, the white is still areas that are under and unserved, although some of them really aren't. The map is a little off, but anyway, you can see that how successful the program has been in serving all of those premises. And then here's what I hope it's going to look like in a couple of months. Those areas I'm colorblind, so these maps are hard, but I think they're yellow. All those areas in yellow, those are 2 grant applications. One is with the big area is with Vibrant, Meeker Electric, down in the southern part here. And they have an application to cover all of those premises. And then we have a smaller area in, is that St. Joe? Yeah, St. Joe Township, right? Is that yellow? Anyway,
If you question whether or not Mike's colorblind, look at his socks sometimes.
To fill
I
in.
didn't look tonight, but he's definitely colorblind.
Small area to fill in, and yeah, it's the colors that I can't work with. So so those have been approved by the state, and they're in front of the NTIA for final approval. So it had to go back to the federal government for final approval. So we're hopeful that on December 4th is when they're supposed to get back to us, that we will have this much coverage throughout the county soon. And I know you can't read this, the report's in the packet, but what this essentially is showing that much of the work is already done, much of the work will be done this year, and then there's a fair amount of work that will conclude and be done in 2026. And there's a number of cities that benefited from the program as well, because as the providers were doing all these rural areas, of course, they took advantage of the more dense area as well. So how this costed out, it's a busy slide, but you've all seen it before. The first 3 projects that we did took, well, in total cost, it was $55 million, and it used $14.7 million of county ARP dollars, and about $1 million of the township dollars. And then, of course, we had border grants of over 18 million. And so that was kind of the first three phases. And now you can see the kind of larger number in the middle there, running total. That's where we are today. So we've leveraged $60 million worth of new broadband infrastructure. And you can see the breakout of a little over $1 million of townships, $21 million of border, and $15.8 million of the ARP dollars from the county. So the next projects that I just spoke of that are in front of the federal government for approval, you can see the total cost of those is over 25 million, and that would cover another 1,255 premises. So all total, if we're successful with those, we will have upwards of $85 million in broadband infrastructure and covering well over 6,000 premises with high-speed fiber to the premise broadband service.
And this is hardwire, again, for people's purposes. That doesn't matter if you're in St. Nicholas or if you're in Wakeville Township, you're gonna have coverage.
That concludes my report. I know there's township folks here. That was fantastic. We had that partnership. It really did help to be able to show that there was a partnership between the providers and the county and the local government is the reason that every application we submitted was funded.
Okay, Commissioner Notch?
Yeah, just for, a little bit of history on that, when we started this, I was on that committee back in 2017 when we did the study. And we had some Western Township folks, and I think the superintendent from Belgrade, the school. And it was interesting, if you saw on that map, Runestone Telecom is doing the way western part. When that study was done, the study said it would be $8,000 a mile to bring that fiber to the home. There was no way there was any provider was even gonna, they could never get, they needed 100% participation, and it would take them forever to get their money back. So when Runestone jumped on that western part, that was, I think, a big plus for the western portion of Stearns County.
Mr. Chair, Commissioner Nachi, it sure was, because the first project was the Avivo one, which is just a little further east there. And we didn't have any provider provide a proposal there. And I remember Commissioner Persky came, I was talking, I can't remember exactly.
I ran into a township supervisor that said Polk County had it, and I said, well, let's bring that across the line.
Boy, I drove right up to the town west of Alex there and talked to them, and we got to make a proposal. So it was all hands on deck to make all this work.
Mr. Chair.
Commissioner Persky?
And Mike, I want to say thank you for your efforts on this. This has really done tremendous good for the county. What it does for the rural folks to be able to stay at their home and maybe conduct business. Some of the small businesses and some of those small little dwarfs, are able to, be viable. And then also the school districts. When we have a snow day, every one of those kids that has it, it's going to be able to be online and be connected to their classroom. Whereas otherwise, it's not going to happen. So kudos to you and thanks a lot for all this work. And the board for supporting these projects. Because, we had to look for the money and find the money, and the townships coming together and that saw the need too. Well-coordinated team effort.
This was well on its way, thanks to Commissioner Mergen. I inherited it, so the last 3 years I just rode the wave. And amazing, the pockets that were in Wakeville Township and Collegeville Township that weren't covered, that we got added, these little, that are in the most recent proposal now that we're trying to wrap some of this up, so, yep, very important. Commissioner Clark.
Yeah, I think, for those here or others listening, we had started off with these ARP dollars about what could you do that would be truly a generational change, something we just couldn't figure out how to do otherwise. And it would really make a big difference. And this was the it. And I know she's not here today, but I remember Kelly Martini coming and talking to us about her example is a good one. She was an in-home business. She had 2 kids trying to do their schoolwork. She had a satellite thing that was charging $120 and then metering it after they said it wouldn't be. This is going to sound like a familiar story because I look at it, many of you, I know you've experienced this. You know, that you couldn't do the business, you couldn't do your online reports, kids couldn't do their schoolwork, et cetera. And so the difference that it's making, including our ag producers, because of how much now requires precision ag, is we're getting there. So, you know, I know some try to kind of put us sometimes like, because we have, you know, some very rural communities, and then we have something that I can't call urban, but I know some might, that we should be at odds. This is a good example of the vibrant county for everyone. We need all areas to be able to have access to high-speed, affordable internet, and this is a big deal, and it's exciting. I mean, it's almost too bad we can't go to every single, whatever you would call groundbreaking, and I gotta tell you, St. Cloud still doesn't really have fiber. So the good news is eventually they don't need any government help. They're gonna do it eventually. So this is both a good and future-looking part, and I can tell you, having done some work with NTAIA, among others, that without your township support, and us actually working together, we would have been getting it work through the state and really make a big difference. So thank you.
Okay. Thanks again. With that, we've come to the end of the meeting. We have a part that we call issues by commissioners that they can speak about whatever they want. Commissioner Clark, want to start on my right?
Sure. Actually, some of you might have gotten to see it. I just didn't get a chance to tell you each directly. We have hired a new executive director for the Great River Regional Library. The process was very thorough, and the board made the decision on Thursday. I mean, we did the voting, and it is Brandy Cantor, who has been there since 2001, did a lot of other community work, has actually been head of the libraries in smaller communities, head's not the right word, but as well as in St. Cloud, so really does know the system. And we are so sad to see Karen Punsick go. And this ought to be a very smooth transition because the system is in such a good place. So I think I'll just keep it short for that.
Okay, Commissioner Notch?
Yeah, thanks, Mr. Chair. Being there's a lot of new people in the crowd, I just thought I'd throw out an example when Commissioner Bertram mentioned for the committees and stuff are on. So I'm just going to kind of give you a rough recap of some of the ones I'm on. So I'm on the Central Minnesota EMS, North Fork Watershed. I attend. Most days we attend the committees, but we're non-voting members. Basically, a lot of it is we report back, to the board, stuff that happens at these soccer watershed meeting, dairy advisory, TRICAP, criminal justice coordinating committee, community corrections advisory board, county extension committee, and then on the state AMC policy committee. I'm on the environment and natural resource, MAGIC, which is Minnesota Association of Government Investing for Counties. And then NACO, which is the national. I'm on the Ag and Rural Affairs Committee. So yeah, we don't just do the 2 meetings a month. This is kind of what floats in between there, to fill this part-time job schedule.
Is that it?
That's it.
Okay.
I'll let
Commissioner
Jodi
Persky.
Parks.
Okay, real quickly, I want to thank folks for being here today. It's nice to see the turnout that we have. Jodi had received a lot of accolades, but I can't be without saying a few things. Just that working on the APO and 7W and ATP3, those transportation groups that I'm with, she was a tremendous asset to those that did projects locally to our region. And then also she continues to service on Transportation Alliance, Association of Minnesota Counties, and on the NACO board as well. And she's just been a tremendous asset to Stearns County and will be continued to do so. Even last night, we had a local meeting on Town Line Road, if you're familiar with that, on the west side of Sartell. She was able to help us get about $9 million of funding for those townships. And without getting those funds, that road would not get the improvements that it needs. So thank you, Jodi, for all your work again. We had a Highway 23 Coalition annual meeting last Friday. Speaker Lisa Damuth was the speaker. So the House Speaker was our speaker, and she addressed the issues. And you folks that are here from the local area here know the importance of Highway 23. You know, we've got a 4-lane completed from Wilmer to Foley, and we're looking to, you know, continue that extension as well, and we'll continue to make that a safer road. And then the next meeting is going to be October 21st. I will actually be in DC on that date, so I will be attending the meeting remotely. And with that, though, we're going to have a discussion, and we're going to be talking about back to the office workers and what that's going to look like for county employees. And I'm a little bit concerned because I don't want to lose contact while I'm in the hotel room and trying to have the discussion with that. So I just want to say, you know, I was very, engaged as far as listening to the comments about where we are and where we're going to go. But I go back to pre-COVID, and I thought we were doing a dang good job as a county when we had everybody in the office. And we're not necessarily at that point anymore, but looking at what other businesses and other government organizations are doing, I do think we can benefit by being more together. So if I do get cut off and don't get a chance to put in my opinion about that, I guess I would be advocating to see folks coming back to the office, whether it's full-time or 60% of the time. That would be my concern, that if we're going to move in that direction, that's where we would go. So that's all I got.
Commissioner Nudge?
Did you want to mention the park?
Oh, tomorrow night, we have a special park meeting, and we usually do one of these remotely, and we're out in Munich. So I think it starts at 4:30. So if you want to come out and take a look at what's happening out there, you're more than welcome to do so. Commissioner Notch, you're going to be there with Commissioner Bertram. And Terrell, you're engaged.
I've got 2 of my other assignments at the same time. The MICA board is meeting in person, and I chair that, and we have our State Community Health Services Advisory Committee, which is like,
Okay.
yeah.
All right.
But Ben has promised to take me on the tour again,
Okay.
so.
Yeah, because the tour will actually be the park just south of New Munich, and then also the Dairyland Trail. They're extending it basically from the Munich to the east, County Road 30. So
Yeah, and that's a project we've been working on for years, and boy, that's really going to add something if we can get that completed. The Wabacon Trail is a jewel, and this could be the same.
I will not make the tour, but I'll be there for the meeting.
And the sandwiches.
Well, I hope. Do I look like I would get sandwiches? So thank you for those reports. Real quickly on the, first of all, it's National 4-H Week today. So the whole week is. So let's recognize we have a strong 4-H program. On the consent agenda, for those of you who aren't familiar with how government works, it's city councils everywhere. We approve the consent agenda because they're really non-controversial items, and we just approve what they are. And then as you saw tonight, if we do have questions, a lot of us ask questions before we get here. And if they're not answered, we want to talk about them, then we pull them. So, but on that, we appointed Leroy Gonringer, a former member of the Planning Commission, back to the Planning Commission. We have a vacancy there. And so that's good news. Shelley Benson, our Environmental Services Director, is here. And we're going to continue to work on getting members at the Planning Commission meeting and a Board of Adjustment meeting. The last Planning Commission meeting we could hold, as we all know, because we didn't have a quorum. So that's unfortunate, but we're working on that. And anybody that has anything before the county, those of you that are here or that are listening, if you have something before the county and you get a notice that says wire money for the application, do not do it. The county will never ask you to wire money. That's the new scam now across the country, not just in Stearns County, but they get these applications because they're public record, they're on the agenda, and applicants were asked to wire money. And so again, just tell your friends and neighbors, the county will never ask you to wire money. And then in the consent agenda tonight as well, we approved $7 million worth of expenditures. And we all go through, there are usually 35 pages of expenditures that are on the consent agenda, but we've asked our questions and we've reviewed those. And it amazes me when I read those, questions I still have after being here 3 years of why are we doing that, this, what is that? But we do look at them, and it's just not willy-nilly, we do go through that. So, but as far as tonight goes, I certainly want to thank Chris Dockendorf and the city of Cold Spring. There's counselors here, the mayor. Chris has really worked well with all the staff to make this happen, so thank you. The mayors, I'd like to thank them for coming and welcoming us officially. I'd like to thank the Cold Spring Bakery, who's close to celebrating their 80 years, for some treats over there. I didn't have any yet, but I hope they're gone. Take them before I get there. And then the county staff, all the county staff that are here and that help make this happen. Allison, Janet, Mike, whoever else, thank you. Allison thought if she stepped out in the hallway, I wouldn't say her name, but I did. So, but all the county staff that helped make that happen. So, and of course, thank you to all of you who came. I hope this isn't the last time we do a rural meeting. Next year, Commissioner Notch will be chair, and I suggested that each year the chair can suggest something like this. So I hope he continues it. So with that, I think we're done. Meeting adjourned. Thank you.
Thank you.